we met with Sheldon and said, you know, this has got to stop.
Yeah.
Can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And so he said, okay. So they got it stopped. And Bob and Martha wanted me to start doing the veterinary work for the recovery team. So I'd do the work.
And what were their names again?
Bob and Martha Hall. Bob and Martha Hall.
Were they calling it Project Wildlife already?
No.
It was just
recovery.
Just informal, just them doing it?
Well, it was pretty informal. Mrs. Canoty did the songbirds, and Bob and Martha did the other birds, plus some mammals.
Oh, okay.
And then...
this is probably in the 70s, I guess.
Oh, early, yeah. 71's when we started. So I started working down at the Imperial Beach Pet Hospital. So then they'd start bringing all the animals in there. Coyotes and bobcats and all kinds of shore and wading birds and pelicans and all kinds of things.
Who would treat them? Would you work on them?
I'd work on them.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, I did all the work. I did all the veterinary work for them.
Were they mostly car strikes and stuff like that? Car accidents? Or?
Yeah. A lot of them were car accidents. Yeah. They were. I was going to show you one of those.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so I did an awful lot of work on that. And then I got the Sierra Club, Conservation Award for 1973 for doing all that stuff.
Right,
so that was pretty good, you know.
Yeah.
I felt good about that.
So you'd fix
and
them
then they
up
said, well, we're going to have to up the pace here. And so I left for Omaha in 74, and I said, I got a hold of Bruce Lindsay, who was a veterinarian from La Jolla, and I said, why don't you and I can't think of her name. Her husband was an ophthalmologist. I was telling you about.
Oh, yeah.
Why don't you guys take the work over on the surgery and the medical care, and then turn it over to Bob and Martha. Then Bob and Martha moved out to Alpine.
Oh my gosh!
And they set this thing up.
Oh.
Then, so we got it started and worked with the Sierra Club, got it rolling pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember doing work. at 3 or 4 in the morning. You know, we do those.
Gosh,
I was a killer. We did a lot of owls. We did a lot of raptors, you know.
Oh yeah.
And all kinds of
coyotes,
bobcats,
possums.
I had the mountain lion there.
Mountain lion, yeah.
I did also, when I was working at the zoo, I had a bighorn come in, a big desert bighorn come in. And I worked. We were trying to recover that one too.
What, had been hit by a car?
No, that was a kidney failure.
Oh my God! Found in the wild?
Yeah, the guy was driving a sports car with a convertible sports car, and stuck that big ram in the back of that car and drove it to the zoo.
Wow!
200-pound ram.
Good for him.
Yeah,
risky.
I couldn't believe it. He pulled up the zoo hospital in a little old convertible sports car with a big ram in the back seat.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So he just found the ram and felt sorry for it?
I don't know how he ever got that in there. I didn't. He left the ram there, and we put him in a recovery stall and worked on him. I remember that. But this thing with Project Wildlife, it got going, and I was in Omaha. I still keep in touch with him quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And
and you were doing bird of prey.
Then we started an eagle recovery project there. I'd been working with Audubon. Audubon had all the records on ranchers that were shooting them in Wyoming, and we took care of Wyoming, Colorado, Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, the Dakotas, clear over to Missouri, and Kansas. I said, yeah, we did that too. So we get birds coming in from there. The state agents would pick them up, and they'd transfer them from one car to the next. The next state would take it. So if it came from Colorado, it'd go from Colorado. Then the state agents would meet them on the border, and take it from there, Nebraska, clear over to Omaha.
Oh my gosh!
And
these were injured birds.
These were injured birds. We saved most of those birds.
Where do you release them again?
They got released in various areas.
Yeah.
We worked with the Fish and Wildlife Service, a guy named Ed Bosack.
Mm-hmm.
Ed Bo, I don't even know if he's alive anymore. But we were working with defenders of wildlife and people like that.
Excellent.
And I had a friend that worked with defenders of wildlife. He was one of their mainstays. Well, he'd been a professional trapper, so he knew all about that,
yeah.
and he became a mainstay for defenders of wildlife. He helped them work on that, and we'd work with him. And some of these birds were trapped, some of them shot, some of them car accidents. Some of them young eagles. Eagles they're clumsy when they're young, and they can't make a direct hit. So they'll run along the ground after the rabbit. They'll just chase the rabbit on, like they'll run after them.
Oh
it's
gosh.
Ridiculous.
These were golden eagles.
These were golden eagles.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
There was a guy down there from a Fish and Wildlife agent. He found an eagle down in a culvert or in a swell off the road. Got a hold of that eagle. The eagle grabbed him, went right through his bowel here.
Oh no!
And they he had to go in for surgery.
Oh my God!
They had to get the eagle out. Their talons are so powerful. I've got pictures of the talons in there, but the Project Wildlife.
Yeah, you came back.
I came back and still did work for them. I didn't do as much as I did before because I was starting. I was really getting into the Tijuana estuary then.
Oh yeah.
And I had an incident when I was at Omaha where we'd worked with a bird, an eagle, golden eagle, for 2 years, and I was working with falconers to get him ready to go.
Mm-hmm. And
we took him up to northeast Nebraska and released him, banded him, and released him with a Fish and Wildlife Service agent. And we got a band return on this. Somebody shot him. And so I decided after all that work, what I was going to do now was go after habitat. And that's when I switched over to just mainly the estuary because I said, an animal at a time for 2 years, I can do a lot of habitat in 2 years. Can't do with that. But somebody had to do it. They did it, and it's still going today. It's still going today. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
That was a long haul story, but it had to do with the zoo. It had to do with Bob and Martha. It had to do with the Sierra Club.
Yeah.
I did all the veterinary work. They did the recovery work. And I remember one bobcat that came in, and we repaired that bobcat. I had to do orthopedic work on that bobcat cat, broke a leg and all that.
Oh gosh!
Done it all, and we had to go easy because you can't handle those animals like you do domestic animals. No way.
Yeah.
So you had to. They developed a specialty. Those people did. And they weren't taught that. They learned it the hard way. And they could teach it now, but boy, they learned it the hard way.
I'll bet.
And so it came time to take the steel out of that bobcat. And we took the steel out and watched him for a little while. You don't want to get them too used to humans.
Yeah.
So I remember we took that cat and we went down to Borrego. I think it was up by Sheep Canyon, and we opened the cage up to let him go, and he stood there and snarled at us, Then he got out of the cage and jumped up on a rock, and then he just looked at all of us and he went, he gave us, that big hiss,
Yes.
And then he walked off the rock and went back into the wilderness.
That was his thank you.
I remember I had a coyote one time. I think I have pictures of that too in there somewhere. But that coyote had, I think he broke 3 limbs.
Oh my
I had to
God.
repair all those limbs.
Oh my gosh.
And that guy did pretty darn well. He got hit, and so I repaired all those limbs.
Wow.
And
how long a recovery?
And then it took a while, but you know what? He recovered. I was ready to pull the steel out and hadn't gotten quite there yet. He dug out and left. He dug out of the pen and left.
Wow. Hardware and all.
Hardware and all. He was walking. He didn't have any trouble at all.
Jeez.
But I wanted to get that hardware out of him because
Yeah.
he was gonna. I have no idea whatever came of that animal.
Wow.
He was.
He's one tough guy.
Yeah. Well, on this thing with cars and all that kind of thing. They need. They figure 1 million vertebrates get killed a day on roads in the United States.
What?
Yeah, that's what
Oh
I think.
my
That's what it
God.
is. I got a report on that.
Oh, that's
See, they need to
disgusting.
put. I talked to Caltrans long time ago, back in the, that was back in the 70s, I think, about putting these overpasses.
It should have been part of the original freeway.
Yeah, well, it should. They should, every time I said if Caltrans putting the road in or doing repair work, they should put an overpass over that. These
Damn right.
they need to. What the trouble is, they need to find out where those crossings are.
Yeah.
One of the big crossings they're putting in now is up in L.A.
Yes.
And that was.
One of the biggest.
I got an interesting story if you want.
Sure. I like
Well,
stories.
Governor Newsom,
Yeah.
his dad and I were on the National Wildlife Federation affiliate board in California in 1970s.
Oh my gosh.
And I didn't know Bill Newsom had a kid, And Gavin, I don't know how old he was then. He was just a tyke, And of course, something happened. I don't know, Bill and Gavin somewhere had kind of a falling out, I think.
Oh, okay.
But I kept in touch with Bill for years, and in 1980, I was doing a lot of work out in the Santa Rosa Mountains on sheep,
Okay.
And we had an area in there we were doing a lot of monitoring and that kind of thing on them.
Wow.
And so he had a friend his name was Ed Statham, and Bill was a buddy of Ed's. They were real close. So Bill called me up and he says, we're what we're doing at the Federation, we're Wildlife Federation. We're giving trips, and we want you to give Ed a trip to see these sheep. And I said, well, is Ed in pretty good shape? And he said, he's in really good shape. He runs marathons and everything. I said,
Oh, good.
well, then we can do it, I said, I'm not going to take somebody in there that isn't in shape, because you can get into some real trouble,
Oh, yeah.
It's really hard to get in there. It's hot. You have to go in there when it's really hot to see the sheep.
There's a whole lot of water. You've got to bring a lot of
You got
water.
to bring your water. He can do all that. You just tell him what to do, and he'll come. So I took old Ed out there, and we went in there, and it was one of those unforgettable trips. It couldn't have been better.
Oh, fantastic.
It was getting, I think it was getting late in the summer. I can't remember the date on it exactly. I remember it was about midsummer. I can't remember where it was. It was in 1980, I believe. And so we were, we stayed in there we stayed in Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and came out. So, and the sheep were the females were starting to go into heat.
Oh my God.
So that was getting late in the season. That's how I remember that it had to be late in the season to see that, because they start throwing a little estrus, and the males that they have an organ in the roof of their mouth for sensing it's a vomer nasal gland that they sense estrus in the females.
Wow.
And so they can sense their urine. So when they're urinating, the males will go up behind them and smell it.
Yeah.
And then if she's ready, they'll mount. If not, they get kicked in the face or something if they aren't careful. So anyway, they were starting to go into estrus. So it really made it interesting.
Wow.
And
were any of the males knocking heads?
Oh yeah. Sometimes we'd hear them knocking heads. I remember, I think there was about 100 one night, 100 times they hit.
Wow.
I remember counting them. I was out there with Pat Flanagan. She was another biologist I used to take out there with me. And we'd count those hits, those big rams that hit, and you could hear them into the night. They get up on the ridges and wham.
Oh my God, what
it was really exciting, man. And they do it down in the watering hole too, where we were. They'd get down in there and fight.
Was this the same time of year?
It was that time of year.
Wow.
That was that time of year, and so was it when I took Ed in there.
Wow, so you gave Ed a great experience.
Oh man, Ed, he
did it change his life?
I think we charged him $500. Of course, I did the trip.
It was a lot.
And then
back
the $500 went to the National Wildlife Federation.
That was a lot of money back then.
So it was worth it to him to do that. And then I took him out into Culp Valley that night when we went out, and we spent the night up in Culp Valley. Of course, you all the stars and it's pretty remarkable out there, I'll tell you. So he had especially in where we go, nobody goes in there. I've never seen another person in there. So it's total wilderness. That close to LA and San Diego. Can you believe that?
Amazing.
Nobody in there.
It's so quiet and clear out there.
Quiet and clear and all kinds of sheep.
In that time of year, the Milky Way is real bright too.
Oh, it was wonderful. I'm telling you, it was wonderful. It's funny. Ed died, Bill died, and I called Ed and I said, "Well, are you going to have a memorial for him?" Oh, he says, "Oh yeah." He says, "Gavin and I are driving up to Seattle this morning to his memorial." So that was when Gavin was just getting started as a governor of California. He said, and so he was a good friend of the Newsoms. And so Ed and Gavin went up to Bill's, and I said, "Well, that's a good way to close it out." Bill always called me on wildlife issues from the 70s, 80s, 90s, clear up to where he died practically.
Wow.
We were always in touch. And I never really knew Gavin at all. He was I think he was raised kind of by the Gettys. I can't remember the whole story.
Wow.
But somehow the Gettys and the Newsoms were, pretty close. I think Ed or Bill did a lot of legal work for him.
Oh, I see. Hey, when you were studying mountain lions down here initially,
how
many mountain lions were there in the region? Was it?
We didn't do the censuses. We didn't get them started. No. We were doing all our. I'll tell you a story. We were doing our work up there, up in Central California, about Paso Robles. So Patricia and I, we were going to meet with Dick Weaver. He was on the Fish and Game. He was a professional biologist, and Dick and I were pretty close, And so we were all going to meet up at Susan Detreville married Larry Sitton. Sitton was on there. Sitton, going back before that on the mountain lions. In '71, they wanted to have a mountain lion moratorium against hunting lions.
Yeah.
You remember that moratorium? That was in 1971, I think.
Yeah.
So Don Hunsaker and I went up and met with McGregor, who was he was the head of the wildlife division for for California,
Mm.
fishing game, and it was fishing game in those days,
Yeah.
you know. And then there was Red Hunt and Larry Sitton and Dick Weaver,
Mm.
and then Don and I. We all met and said, you know, we got him. And Susan came over. Susan was really, I wish you could have known her. She was all tied into this.
Wow.
And so she took us over there, and we met with all of them and befriended them pretty much. We worked from there on out, you know.
Wow.
Dick's died. He almost died in a helicopter crash a while back. We went there, and then we got that all set up, you know.
Had the moratorium already passed, or was it?
I was going into it. They were going
Okay.
to do it. See, so they wanted. We were all working together on it. So we flew up
Oh, I
from
see.
San Diego
Yeah.
and met with them there, and then we moved on to where later on in the 70s to do the central California.
Ah.
And so Collar and Cats up in there, and old Susan had found this guy running hounds, and he'd tree the cats, you know, and then you'd have to collar the cats, and then you'd have to track them from an airplane.
Oh, somebody shoot him with a dart, and then you...
Yeah, and then you just put the collars on them, and so she had this place up there, and so Patricia and I went up there because they were going to fly out, and they wanted me to fly out with them next morning, so. So on the track, see where what was going on. So there was a guy up there by the name of Paul Corey, see, and he was an interesting guy. He was an old writer. His wife was Ruth Leckleitner, and they knew they were all tied in with writers from the 30s and 40s and 50s. In that era.
Oh, okay.
And so they knew all those from New York and New Hampshire, all that area, and then they came out to California, and he was working on these cats out here and writing about them. He worked for Look magazine.
Oh gosh.
And in the 50s, he got, you know, he was what they call a fellow traveler. And so he was kind of wound up with the Communist Party, you know.
Oh gosh.
Which made it more interesting.
Oh no, yeah, really.
So he was working with them up there, and he was there that day, and there was Dick was there, and Larry Sitton, and Susan, and so Larry, and then there was the pilot, and so Dick and Paul and Larry and myself and the pilot went up. Started
airplane
in the airplane, started tracking the cats that we collared up there.
Wow.
And there's a military base up there, so they were on that military base, and we tracked all over, and they were doing pretty well.
Wow.
We did, and we go all the way over to Big Sur and do the Big Sur and circle back, and then go back over that whole area and survey.
I guess the male cats range further.
100 miles.
100 miles.
And they'll kill another male in that area. If there's a young male in there, they'll chase them out.
And the females have a smaller range, I think.
Yeah. The males, they are they're the king of the. See, we were working with Hornacher, who was up in Idaho. He was one of the top guys that knew more about lions than anybody in the world almost.
Oh.
I don't know. Maurice Hornacher was his name.
Okay.
And I know we worked with Hornacher on cats and Valerie Geist from Montana on bighorn. So we had these different guys that would kind of guide a lot of our work. See.
It's kind of tough because the cats eat the bighorns.
Oh yeah. Oh, I got stories about that. But they collared a lot of. Well, anyway, we tracked that, and then we were going to move down into Southern California.
Right.
Then Shelby came. Shelby came into the picture. That was 70. That was in the 70s, 73, 74, and so that was starting to move that direction. And then we met up there with Otto Leopold's son, Starker Leopold.
Mm.
And he says, well, I got a job for you. He says, I got a job for you. I said, well, what's that? He says, you're a veterinarian, right? And I said, yeah. He says, I got a project going over in Yellowstone with Margaret Mayer over there. Margaret Mayer's head research biologist over there, Dr. Mayer. And I want you to start working with her over there.
Mm.
And I said, well, I got to practice. Well, he says, we just got to get data and we got to get moving. He says, we want to expand the range for bison over there.
Oh.
We want to get that bison range expanded.
Yeah.
And we're having real problems with ranchers and veterinarians over there. And I said, well, yeah, brucellosis, all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
Was that a big deal?
Well,
back then?
I said, well, what the hell's going on here? I said, there's a lot of brucellosis in elk. And he says, yeah, but the game guys, they like the elk. They don't like the bison. See? And so it got into a political hassle.
Oh, I never heard about the elk issue with it.
Oh, elk have a lot of ungulates have problems with brucellosis.
Oh.
So, and also, I think magpies and stuff that'll land on the carcasses of dead animals, you know.
Oh, okay.
They have brucellosis afterbirth and stuff.
Everybody's
They'll
blaming the
carry it
buffalo.
around.
Yeah.
It's him. And it came in on cattle in the first place, you know. So
Of course.
that made it worse. So we worked on that. I've still got the papers we wrote on that out in the garage. You know, we exchanged all kinds of information on that. And so it was wild back then. And Susan was in the middle of this. And then the next thing we did, where I brought Susan in again, I wish I'd write her history up on her. We started to build a sewer treatment plant in Mexico. And Susan was working with us then.
For Tijuana?
Tijuana, yeah. So we were working with the International Boundary and Water Commission, with Mexico, the United States. We were working out of the State Department, and we were working out of the state of Mexico, working out of the governor down there, and then it's Carlos de la Parra, who was down there just getting started. Now he's a big wheel down there. He was just getting started, and we were all working together, and we built Echo Parky down there.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's still there today, but it's still operating today. So Susan was always wound up with us all the way back, as far as I can remember, when I came to San Diego. We always
Amazing
worked
woman.
together. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. It was, but boy, those days were really. And then of course the Tijuana estuary. Boy, that was
Big project.
that was a story in itself.
Yeah, we got to get you to talk
You know,
about that
I've got a whole. The Fish and Wildlife Service interviewed us
Good.
for the whole thing. And
Excellent.
that went to the archives in Washington. But I have a
Excellent.
copy of it. But you know, when you're transferring, you know, when you're doing a oral discussion, it doesn't flow like you would if you were writing it.
Oh,
So
true.
it's a little bit difficult.
Oh, I think we're getting called away.
But anyway, that sort of that kind
That's
of builds
interesting.
a Project
Yeah.
Wildlife was.
Yeah.
You know, Project Wildlife was part of that whole thing we started up there with the state of California on the mountain lion moratorium, the bighorn sheep work we were doing, the Project Wildlife we were doing, the Tijuana Estuary, and Echo Parque, all that stuff was just moving all about the same time.
Oh my God, Mike!
It all dovetailed.
You guys are pioneers on all these.
Well, it was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
It really was. It could be written up better.
Laura needs your help.
Okay,
all right.
We're coming out.
We're coming.
I'm just
You
wrapping
better
up.
come because she's
All right.
doing it all and she's